Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to my review of tonight's edition of Smackdown. And yes, I did not do a Raw review last night because I was out in the city yesterday. I went to the network upfronts with my friends. We went to the NBC and the Fox upfronts. I basically got, plenty, fair amount of photos with celebs who are on Fox shows, returning shows and upcoming new shows. So it was a pretty fun time out there in the city yesterday. Had a lot of fun. But I did get to see Raw last night thanks to the Fios mobile app. Because when I was on the bus, I was like, can I watch Raw on the app? And I scrolled down and went to USA, and it allowed me to watch Raw on my phone yesterday. So while I was on the bus, I watched Raw. Didn't get to see Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens. One of my friends was keeping me updated if the train wasn't coming on time, so he kept me and my friend updated. He said Seth won the match, which that was cool. But I'm just gonna give you my thoughts on what I thought of Raw last night. We had the match I did get to see was the first match I got to see last night was Bobby Roode winning the Money in the Bank qualifying match. He defeated Baron Corbin and No Way Jose. So that's cool. Bobby Roode is going to be in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Breezango versus the B team, which was Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. That's their new name, their new team name, the B team, which in my opinion, I'm not really a fan of the name. And they came out with B, with the letter B's on both of their shirts. So, but they ended up beating Breezango, shockingly, which that was really interesting. Sasha Banks Natalya, and Amber Moon defeated the Riot Squad, a 6-woman tag team match. Another one of these. So wasn't much of a match. Wasn't that great of a match. Then it was Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt. They beat the Revival. Was meh of a match. Then he had Sami Zayn doing a segment where he's just talking shit about Bobby Lashley. He mocked Lashley's interview last week, and he invites Bobby Lashley's. He sends out an invitation, to Bobby Lashley's sisters, and he wants Bobby Lashley's sisters to come on Raw next week, make an appearance. Which I know that segment next week is going to be fucking terrible. Predicting it right now. Then Alexa Bliss is qualified for the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. So Alexa Bliss is going to be in the Women's Money in the Bank. She ended up defeating Bayley and Mickie James. Then the match itself, it was okay. Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre defeated Finn Balor and Braun Strowman. It was a decent match. Then we had Kevin Owens is going into the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. He defeated Bobby Lashley and Elias, and was a decent main event. So, but all in all, Raw to me, it was just okay, in my opinion. So those are my thoughts on last night's Raw. And now it's almost 5 minutes into the video. Just wanted to talk about that. Saying I was at the upfronts and give my thoughts on Raw last night. But SmackDown came to us from the O2 Arena in London. It was a tape show. Raw last night also was from the O2 in London. It was a tape show, and I pretty much don't like taped WWE shows. When they're overseas, because the results leak out, and they spoil the show for you. And I avoid the spoilers when they're overseas. And usually half the time when they're overseas, it's not that great of a show. It's not that great of a Raw or SmackDown show. But SmackDown tonight, I thought it was okay. Thought it was on par with. It was the same. It was okay, just like Raw last night. So we had more Money in the Bank qualifying matches. But the show opened up with Renee Young introducing Daniel Bryan. The London crowd gave a loud pop to Daniel Bryan. They were just chanting, Daniel's name. It was a thunderous chant from the London crowd. And Daniel Bryan goes on to say that he was disappointed. He was disappointed that he lost the Greatest Royal Rumble, and he doesn't like losing, of course. And when he came back, he says when he came back he was just happy to be back and do what he loves doing, and that's competing in the ring. And he's like, that, like he said, that's not enough. He doesn't just want to be back; he wants to be on top. So, and now we have Big Cass ends up coming out. Also, forgot to mention, Daniel Bryan said, also does, he wants to be on top, but he wants to become the WWE champion. And so that's when Big Cass ends up coming out. He ends up coming out saying that he's sick of hearing Daniel Bryan run his mouth. And he says that, he was Daniel Bryan's first major setback. And, the reason, and, it was the reason that he lost to Rusev. And he says, Daniel will keep losing because, he says Big Cass says, he'll make sure he never achieves his dreams in WWE again. Daniel's dreams in WWE again. And, Big Cass goes on to say that, he lost at Backlash. But, the only reason he tapped out because he wanted out of the hold so, he could beat up Daniel Bryan again. And, that's exactly what he did. And, he mocks, Daniel Bryan's 75 minutes in the Greatest Royal Rumble. And he ends up calling Daniel Bryan a loser. And, he's like, he ends up calling Daniel Bryan a loser because, he big booted him. Big Cass ended up big booting him, and he threw him over the ropes at the Greatest Royal Rumble. He goes on to say that, Daniel Bryan should have stayed retired and become a father. And then we saw Daniel Bryan just go after Big Cass. And, we see Daniel Bryan doing the yes kicks. The crowd was going yes, yes, when, he was doing the kicks. Then Daniel then tosses, he ends up taking Big Cass's leg and then just rams Big Cass's leg into the post, to the ring post. And then he ends up taking down Big Cass, hitting his leg. And then he locks Big Cass with the heel hook. So that pretty much ended the segment. So, but it was a decent segment. Big Cass Actually got a lot of heat from the London crowd, which was good. So, but it was a decent segment to open SmackDown. Then we had a Money in the Bank qualifying match. It was the New Day versus Cesaro and Sheamus, the bar. And it was Big E and Xavier Woods in the match. Miz was on commentary during the match. And I say the match itself, it was decent. It was a decent match. It was back and forth between Big E and Xavier and Cesaro and Sheamus. You had at one point in the match where Big E takes down Sheamus, goes through the second rope, and just takes down Sheamus, outside, ringside, and that pretty much led to Xavier Woods climbing to the top, walking on the top, balancing himself on the top rope, and then hitting a, I guess you could say, flying elbow on I think it was Cesaro, and so the New Day wins, and one of them has to be in the Money in the Bank match. Whoever it's going to be, either it's going to be Xavier or Big E or Kofi. We'll just have to wait and see. Because when they showed the graphic, it just showed the three of them. So, but yeah, overall it was a decent match between New Day, Cesaro, and Sheamus. Then we had Harper and Rowan, the Bludgeon Brothers. They end up cutting a promo. They're saying that they are waiting and the time is up. Putting the whole tag team on putting the whole tag team division on lockdown. Because they showed picture of the Usos and Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, and also the New Day. So putting the whole tag team division on notice. And I said lockdown like like it's the Usos. So, but they're putting the whole tag team division on notice. So, but it was a short promo from Harper and Rowan. Then we see Paige is backstage. Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville end up coming in. Mandy tells Paige that she beat Becky last week and she's headed to Money in the Bank. Thinking she's heading to Money in the Bank. But Paige says that both Mandy and Sonya will be in a triple threat match. It's a qualifying, it's a Money in the Bank qualifying match, and they're going to be taking on, it's going to be Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville Mandy Rose versus Sonya Deville versus Becky Lynch. So that's a triple threat match. One of those women will qualify for the women's Money in the Bank match. So, but overall, it was a little backstage segment with Paige and Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. Then we have Renee Young interviewing AJ Styles about his match with Nakamura tonight. It's going to be AJ Styles versus Nakamura. Whoever won the match gets to choose the stipulation for the Money in the Bank, for their match at Money in the Bank, whether it be Styles or Nakamura. So, she was interviewing AJ Styles about heading into the match tonight with Nakamura, and what will be the stipulation that he would choose if he wins the match. And Styles ends up going on to say that Nakamura can't beat him in the house that AJ Styles built. And that was pretty much it was a decent interview with AJ Styles. Then we had the debut, the SmackDown debut of Andrade Cien Almas and Zelina Vega. It was him versus a local guy by the name of Jake Constantino. This was pretty much a nothing match. It was a short match. Andrade Cien almost won the match with the hammerlock DDT. So then you had, after the match, Zelina gets on the mic and says that Andrade has finally come to SmackDown, and she is not happy that he faced Jobber as competition. And she ends up saying they both didn't come to SmackDown to play nice, and they have come to SmackDown to take over. And so she ends up saying, she's putting the locker room on notice with Andrade Cien Almas. So finally happy that Andrade is on SmackDown, made his debut tonight. But match itself, it was pretty much nothing. Then we saw Rusev and Aiden. Aiden English gives Rusev his own room. Sorry about that, but I was saying Aiden gave Rusev, his own, room. And Aiden goes on to say that, he has a new song for Rusev. And he tries to sing it, but Lana ends up coming in and says, Rusev is not only going to be victorious, and she announces, she is in a qualifying match next week against Billie Kay. And as she goes, she wins and goes into the Women's Money in the Bank match, if she and Rusev possibly retrieve their briefcases, they will be the first ever Mr. and Mrs. Money in the Bank. And pretty much that basically ended the backstage segment with them. So then after that, we had Carmela come out for her Royal MELLABRATION, and pretty much it wasn't that good. It was a shitty. It was a shitty segment. It was just Carmela just, saying, she wants the crowd to cheer for her, because she ended up being Charlotte again. And so the crowd ends up booing her, and she wants the crowd to bow down for her. That was basically, all it was. So it was a waste of time. And she ends up going on to say that she is better than the crowd, and she's better than Charlotte, Sasha, Becky. And, she even says she's better than Ronda Rousey. Really? And it's where I'm like, she's going full stupid with this. She goes on to say that she's also better than Trish Stratus and Lita. They're both Hall of Famers. I don't think you are better than Trish Stratus and Lita. Trish Stratus and Lita are the two greatest women in the WWE when they were there. Sorry about that, but I was saying, Trish Stratus and Lita are one of the greatest women to ever step foot in a WWE ring. Back then. They were both one of my favorites, and their rivalry was great. But Carmela saying that she's better than the both of them? Really? Really? And then we had Paige end up coming out, saying that it's great to be, home, because this was, back in her home. The crowd was chanting, this is your house. And she ends up coming out to announce Carmela's opponent for Money in the Bank. She ends up saying that the SmackDown Women's Championship will be on the line at Money in the Bank. And it will be on the line because Carmela is going to be facing Asuka for the SmackDown Women's Championship will be on the line. So, and then we had Asuka come out. So, but all in all, the segment, it was shitty segment. It was just Carmela just asking the crowd to cheer for her. That was basically what it was. Then we have Renee Young interviewing Shinsuke Nakamura about going into his match tonight, and what his chances are if he wins the match. What stipulation would he choose for him and Styles' match at Money in the Bank. And Nakamura says, what does chance mean? It was funny though. It was funny, and he goes on to say that he will win the match and Styles will lose and get a knee to face, and that he's going to destroy Styles. And that was pretty much basically the interview. It was a decent interview with Nakamura. Then we had the triple threat match: Becky Lynch versus Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, versus Mandy Rose versus Sonya Deville. And the match itself, it was okay. Wasn't great or perfect by any means, but it was back and forth between Becky Lynch, Mandy, and Sonya. And it looks like maybe it looks like, well, I was saying this because you had at one point in the match Mandy Rose ended up rolling up Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville ended up kicking out. Wonder if this is a way that they're gonna possibly maybe break up Mandy and Sonya and let them go on and do let them compete as single competitors. But maybe wrong on that. But who knows what WWE would do. But Becky Lynch ended up winning the match. She applied the disarmer on Mandy Rose. Mandy Rose ended up tapping out. And so Becky Lynch is now in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, which is really cool. Hopefully, I would like to see Becky win the women's Money in the Bank, and then cash in and win the SmackDown Women's Championship again, because it's been a while. It's been a while since Becky lost the SmackDown Women's Championship. Really would like to see her as SmackDown Women's Champion again. I think she deserves it. I think she deserves another shot. But so it was a okay match, but it wasn't great though. Then we had Samoa Joe ended up cutting a promo. He announced that he's gonna face Big Cass next week, and this looked like probably a Samoa Joe face turn. That was basically what I saw in his promo that he cut. So then we had the Iconics, Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. They were just doing the pretty much Billie Kay, just talking about her match next week with Lana, and pretty much basically they were doing word association. It was basically that. So then we had the main event, which was Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ Styles. Winner chooses a stipulation for the match at Money in the Bank, and this was a decent main event. Nakamura and Styles going at it once again. It was enjoyable to continue their rivalry. One point in the match, Nakamura ended up fake low blowing. Like the ref thought Styles low blow Nakamura, but Nakamura ended up faking it and pretty much gave Nakamura control of the match at the end, where he hits a exploder and then he hits the Kinshasa to AJ Styles and pins him. Nakamura wins the match. So now Nakamura earns the right to choose a stipulation for their Money in the Bank match for the WWE Championship. So I wonder what Nakamura is going to choose. He didn't announce the stipulation tonight because SmackDown ended up going off the air. Well, it was taped. It was a tape show, so. But yeah, I wonder what Nakamura is going to choose as a stipulation. So, but overall, match itself, it was a decent main event to continue the Nakamura and Styles rivalry. So, yeah, so anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's edition of SmackDown. Thank you all for watching, and be sure to give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and until next video, I'll see you all later.